All right. Well, we are live. Welcome to episode 6 of our podcast here. I don't know if we have an official name for this yet.
Yeah, I think we've been going with wholesaling the cool way.
Okay. Wholesaling the cool way. Welcome back to episode 6 of wholesaling with the cool way. So what we're going to share with you guys is just basically a recap of our past week. We're going to share some tips and tricks that have helped us, any challenges that have come up, and share some feedback with each other on hopefully how we can overcome those challenges. And we like to start off usually with just kind of a recap of the week, and along with any inspiration, maybe books, maybe podcasts, or maybe anything out in the world that inspired us over the past week. So you want to kick us off with that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm still here in Chicago, so my week personally, I just it was kind of a normal Chicago week. I did pickleball, worked a bunch, and it's been nice. It's been in the 80s, so I've been in the water a couple times, jumped in the lake off of the ledge out near us here, which is cool with the city skyline. Let's see, we had dinner out once with friends at a Mexican restaurant, so that was good. And oh yeah, we had some friends over for dinner this week too. Sat out on the patio out and back, so a good balanced week with a lot of stuff. Still doing my workouts and yoga and everything every day, which keeps me sharp and feeling good. So as far as inspiration and learning, we did do. My team and I did another launch control session this week. The launch control is our text platform, so we did a launch control session with a consultant just to look at our account and optimize what we're doing with our text leads and making sure we're getting the best results we can. And he recommended this woman to me who's also a land investor named Callan Faulkner. And so I looked her up and checked out a podcast of hers this week with this podcast called Only Land Fans, which is a podcast about land investing. And I've run into the host on the internet. I think we're friends on Facebook, and we've talked about deals and stuff, but I haven't ever met him. I think his name is Kendall Lejeune. And so anyway, she had some good stuff in there about just the way she structures her business and the way she looks at deals, and talked a little bit about doing some bigger deals where, she's buying bigger tracts and trying to convert them, rezone them, and, convert them into commercial lots or whatever, like trying to hit home runs with those. But then she was talking about how her, her everyday deals that keep the lights on work and what her parameters for those are, and good stuff about going into new markets and how to do that. She's really one of her superpowers is in analyzing markets, managing CRM. She had a background in that before she started investing in real estate, so she's super organized and good at systems. And so she had some really good tips about, using, this is where I was talking to you about RVM, Jasper, because she brought it up, of they'll go into a market and they'll start an initial text campaign of like a couple thousand texts, right? And just to see what the responses they're getting are and what the quality of the responses are, how savvy the sellers are. Like if every seller is already saying, I want 100,000 for this lot, like their markets are in Florida, they know that builders have already been through there and everybody knows what the prices are. So it's not going to be an easy market. But it was a good market and they're getting like positive response and like opportunity to get deals. Then they'll double down on that with text, and then they'll add in ringless voicemail. And then if the market's going well, that's when they'll do direct mail because they've already proven it's a good market, and they'll do the extra expense for direct mail. So I liked just her sort of gradual rollout for new markets and how she described that. And also just talking about using analytical tools to go into markets, similar to what you do for houses, Jasper, but just like going, hey, my optimal deal size is going to be lots that are going to retail for 30 to 50K, and I want to make a minimum of 10K per deal. So, where are the places where there are a lot of lots on the market for that price, but there are also a good percentage of solds for lots in that price range, and then going into those markets, right, and looking at that. So I hadn't really thought to look at it that way for land deals. So that was really helpful, listening to her and the way she thinks about her business and organizes it and goes into markets and all that. So some gold there for sure. And actually, one of my team members listened to another one of hers on YouTube that I want to check out, but he learned some stuff from her about some of the quick replies and different strategies on launch control that she uses.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
that was a good one. And that comes from, using a free resource, as we've talked about. Like, I just did a little video for this on my, YouTube channel, just a short about, hey, if you got free resources, use them. Like Launch Control will
Yeah.
coach you up for free. It's part of your subscription. So take advantage.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I listened to an Alex Hormozy one, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the ones where he was doing like a workshop for sales professionals and talking, he talks about how his business evolved with sales and then how he handles objections or did handle them in, the gym business, the fitness business. And I guess one of the takeaways I had from that, I always love listening to him talk about sales and handling objections, but just really, um, like he was talking about how empathy is so important, and like the person who cares the most about the prospect or the seller or whoever you're dealing with trying to sell to is the one who's going to get the deal or get the sale. That you just want to put the other person's needs first and put the other person's concerns first and really care about them, and even if it's not the right deal for them, talk them out of it. But like, um, and then once you have that as a foundation, then handling objections becomes a lot easier because then you're working together to try and get the best result for them. Then he
Yeah.
talks about a lot of techniques that he used and specific objections that can come up, and how he responds to them. And, like the basic objections of time, or you have to consult somebody else or whatever. We've listened to these things before with Alex Hormozy, but I always recommend, I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast episode with or an interview with Hormozy that I've been like, oh, that was crap. I didn't get anything out of that. Like he
Yeah.
delivers value every single time I listen to him. And so if anybody hasn't listened to Alex Hormozy, I would definitely recommend checking him out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
I think that's what I have for my inspiration and learning portion.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad you found that landlady. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good resource.
Funny thing is, she's only been doing it for like 3 years, similar to me. So,
Yeah.
but she's got that background in the system stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Oh, all right. Well, for me, a little bit of a personal check-in. This week was good. We went to one of my favorite steakhouses called Fogo de Chao, which I think I've told you about before. But I like that place because it's like all-you-can-eat style, and they just keep bringing you meat until you say stop.
Is that the Brazilian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always fun. So it's nice to go there and get all the best meats and stuff. That was really fun. And it's always a fun environment there too. So that was nice. And then we tried a new Mexican spot this week, which was really cool. They had I don't know what it's called, but they had a fire dancing person. I think there's a word for that. But that was my first time ever seeing that. So that was really interesting. And
Yeah.
we were just eating, and then they turned down the lights, and I was like, why turn down the lights? Because it wasn't even really dark outside yet. And then all of a sudden, this fire dancer just comes through, and it's like a pretty decent sized restaurant. She just came through like every corner of the restaurant, like did her little fire dance or whatever, and then moved on. So it was fun.
Wow.
It was unique for sure. I wasn't expecting that, so that was fun, and the food was very good. And it was an interesting restaurant because it was like marketed as like a Mexican restaurant, but they had all kinds of food. Like we had calamari, I had enchiladas, Naja had steak. We had a churro ice cream sandwich, which was delicious.
Wow.
But it was like it wasn't a churro, but it was the same type of thing. It was like a churro in a circle, I guess, on top of ice cream. So that was really good. But it was an interesting place for sure. They had like trees right in the middle of the restaurant, like really tall trees with skylight and stuff. It was cool. So that was fun.
Sounds great.
And in terms of inspiration, I saw this video the other day where The Rock bought this fighter a house. I thought that was really sweet. So that inspired me. He was inspired by the fighter because he mentioned, I think on social media or something, that he had like $7 in his bank account because he had just went back to, I believe this guy was from Zimbabwe or somewhere in Africa, but he had just went back and built a bunch of houses for his village with his prize money from one of his fights.
Wow.
And so he basically spent all of his money, doing that, and he didn't have really any money. So he's sleeping in the gym where he's fighting out of, he's sleeping on the couch in the gym. And so The Rock came. It was a really sweet video. He came to the gym and surprised them, and the dude like had no idea. He was just excited to see him. And then he took him. He didn't tell him, but he like took him to his house, and they were supposed to meet like his friend there or whatever. But then he just handed him the keys. He was like, "This is your house." And the dude just lost it. It was really sweet.
Wow.
It was really sweet. And he just kept saying like, "I'm gonna become a champion for you. I'm gonna be a champion." And it was so sweet. It was so sweet to see that. So that was really cool. I always love seeing people give back like that.
Yeah.
And he like opened up the closet too, and The Rock's got sponsorship with Under Armour, so he had like all of his gear. He gave him all a bunch of gear for Under Armour and stuff. So that was really sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, but I enjoyed watching that. That was just a quick like 10-minute video, but it was very cool. And then I listened to this interview with Manny Kochman, and I kind of feel like he's similar to Alex Hormozi. Like I've heard his story a bunch of times, but anytime I hear his interview, or see his interviews, I listen to him because I feel like I always get something out of it. And I like this interview because it was with Noah, and I like Noah's interviews. They're usually good. Noah Kagan.
Yeah.
And so that was cool to listen to, kind of hear his story again, and just hear kind of his outlook on the market going forward and stuff, and what he's buying. And just cool to see, the size of deals that he's doing, because he started off with smaller deals, and now he just does huge deals. And I think he told him that he just went under contract on one that will get him or net him $50 million in profit. That would be his biggest deal to date.
Did you say 50, 50?
Yeah, so just on one deal, 50 million.
Wow.
And he did say, honestly, that's his biggest one, but still, it's incredible. And he's done a bunch, smaller than that, 10 to 30 million on a single deal. So that was inspiring for sure for me to hear.
Yeah, that's great.
And then last one I'll say is that I didn't finish this one, but Graham Stephan was interviewing Ennis. I don't really know how to say his last name, but this is a dude that I've been watching for a long time because he used to do, or he still does, but he started doing like really cool house tours, and most of them are in Beverly Hills area, like Los Angeles, but he would just tour these amazing mansions, like 20, 30, 40, $50 million mansions in Los Angeles. But it just, the production quality set him apart. Like he would just get drone video footage of the house, all these like close-up shots. It was just amazing.
He just asked people's permission and go do it?
Yeah, so it's a really cool story that he has, but he was a real estate developer in Dallas, and he kind of got tired of that. Basically, he moved to Los Angeles, and he was like semi-retired, and he was just trying to figure out what he was going to do next because he made good money as a developer. And then he basically figured out that that's what he wanted to do, and so he started off. He was a broker, and so he would just essentially, and it's cool. You can go back to his old videos and see, but he would essentially just go to open houses, like how I can go to open house, and he would just film. But there's obviously other people in the house, and it's not very professional. But then he would gradually build a reputation, and then he would ask the agents like, "Hey, can I get a private showing of this house to do my video?" And then he would do that. And now it's to the point where companies are reaching out to him left and right. And the interview was set on a yacht that cost $120,000 a week if you wanted to actually rent it, and he's there for free because of his channel. So it's super inspiring to hear that, because like that's just like, it's a shiny object for me, but it's really cool because it's like he just gets paid to have these amazing experiences now, where companies fly him out to do a week on their yacht just so he can film content because it's going to bring them so many eyeballs. And same thing for all these mansions now. Like now people are reaching out to him left and right to see these mansions like New York and Chicago and LA, like overseas in Thailand, like all these amazing mansions because they just get, a bunch of eyeballs and probably deals from it. So really cool to hear his story and see where he is now because it happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, that's it for me.
Nice. Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah. So next we can segue into business check-in. So we can do KPIs, victories, challenges.
All right.
Anything else you want to share?
Well, I'll start with victories. I think I texted you this week because I was disappointed about my ROI and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I assigned one of my team members to track ROI and we have it in our KPI tracker. And I was like, why is this so low? And then, it's an example of asking the right questions. So then I asked hey, would you track the KPI from only completed campaigns, please? And so,
Yeah.
so our KPI was like, I was like, this can't be right. Our KPI, our ROI is 3.3% for, text. And so then when I got the results back on that, my ROI for text is 8 plus. It's like 8.14x, right? 8x spend to revenue. So that was really a victory for me. I was like, I knew it was in there. I didn't want to go do all the research myself because I have a guru on my team who does the research and puts together reports and all that stuff for me. So it was just asking the right question. And so I found that my ROI on text so far is 8x, which is great because that includes us like sort of bumbling our way through and learning how to use text and optimize for results and stuff. I think that with the stuff we've been doing in recent weeks, our ROI will go up quite a bit. And I can talk about that a little bit later with lead management, but and then the results on our direct mail were 6.3x. So we're at 6.3 times marketing spend to revenue. So
that's very good.
Yeah, definitely better on text because it costs less, but still not bad on direct mail. So I do want to continue to go into markets with direct mail. I just have to. I'm going to be more judicious about it because it is more expensive, and the in our market, North Carolina, definitely response rate has diminished just in the 3 years I've been doing this by a huge margin. Used to get 1.5%, sometimes even 2% on a campaign, and now it seems like 0.5% is good on a campaign, which is kind of sad, but I think it just is what it is. People flooding the market, especially in North Carolina. As you know, people from all over the country are trying to invest in North Carolina real estate. So might be an argument for you and I to go into different markets too, start looking at other states now that we know what we're doing. So that was a victory. We closed 2 this week, which is a victory. One of those was I haven't done many house deals. I think we actually closed on 1 house last year in 2022. So we closed on this house and it was very easy for the most part. I mean, I can talk about if we want to do a deal profile on that one, I could go into more detail, but nice, slightly higher profit, assignment profit than our average house or land deal. And then we did close another one that was a neighbor letter, which I've talked to you about before. And I did a little video for my social media too on just doing neighbor letters because it's a great strategy for us. When we get a piece of land, we just send letters to the neighbors and offer the property up to them first, give them sort of like a special inside track to buy the property before we market it widely. And we've had great success with that. We've closed, probably 5 to 10 deals with neighbors from neighbor letters in the past few years, and probably a handful of them already this year. So it's nice because it's very easy. You send a letter, the neighbor calls you up, you negotiate a price, and you close the deal. It's like pretty simple when it works, and it's worth it to send it out every time because we get 10 to 20% of our deal, we get response from neighbors probably 10 to 20% of the time. Anyway, so that was a victory. We got 3 contracts this week, which is great because we had a slow couple of weeks ago. I think last week we had 3 or 4 or 5. I can't remember. But we had 3 again this week. So I think that's 2 weeks in a row of 3 contracts, which is a victory. What else? So we talking about lead management. Our systems guru, who I mentioned before, was going through our CRM and realized we had a lot of unattended to seller leads that were sort of just sitting in our CRM. So she's taken action and gotten stuff where everybody's getting attention. And she started a follow-up sequence for all the leads that were sort of in limbo. And we've been getting she's doing it gradually with the follow-up sequence because there were like 900 leads that she's looking at. So she's been doing like a chunk of them every day. But I worked on Saturday because I've got a guy working on Saturdays doing launch control. So I worked alongside him. And I had, I think, 20 people respond to this follow-up sequence that she sent out, just like, hey, you still want to sell the property or whatever, just checking back with you. And I had 20 calls or texts from sellers who wanted to talk to us about their property. And we had that pretty much every day that she did that. So huge victory on that. And she had 800 leads in a status that we have called offer sent in follow up that were not in a follow up sequence. We had 800 leads in there. So, so it's basically like getting 800 new leads, basically, so that's a huge victory. And then I mentioned the consultation with launch control. Those people are rock stars with what they do. They know launch control inside and out. They look at our account. They tell us what we could be doing better or differently, and they give us lots of tips. And then this guy referred me to the land investor I mentioned earlier in the pod about the woman who does the land that I learned stuff from. So that was great. And then another small victory is we had a buyer cancel a deal last week. He just emailed the lawyer and said, I'm not going to be able to close this deal, after he had postponed the closing date like 3 times. And then he said, just checking with you about getting my earnest money back. And the victory is that our closing attorney said, you're in breach of contract. You're not getting your earnest money back. So then I reached out to him and said, did I already share this one last week? Maybe I did.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well,
awesome.
It was a victory. Yeah. I was just trying to think about victories.
Yeah.
So if I shared it last week, then I'll shut up. I couldn't remember if that happened this week or last week. I was just trying to write stuff, trying to remember stuff down. And another small victory. It's not like any major result, but we have a 30 acre plot that's going to be a nice profit for us that's still on track. And we just got some updates this week that looks like things are going well. And that was the one I got the big price reduction on, for like a major price reduction on that property, which enabled us to sell it and then have it's not a closed deal yet, but it's on track. There are some wrinkles with that one with a wetland specialist and getting permits from the county and stuff, but I think it's going to happen. So that's exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah. And the challenge, biggest challenge this week was the issues with launch control. You and I both experienced a system-wide glitch with launch control where we weren't able to do anything in the dashboard. That lasted for, I think, about 48 hours for us. The bigger challenge for us has been that our account's been suspended for a week now. We have been unable to send batches. So after sending 24,000 texts for the last few weeks with our pro account, we've been sending 0 texts for this week. And that's very frustrating. Launch Control has said that they thought it was because our website had language that was considered spammy by the TRC, the regulatory body for text and communications. So, we've gone in and cleaned up our website, taken out language like get a cash offer now or cash for your property, that kind of stuff. They were saying that that's what they thought was causing our website to be flagged. And Launch Control is not working over the weekend. I was working on that website yesterday and resubmitted it for review. So hopefully we get that submitted for review on Monday and get our account back online. But I don't think the TRC is very fast in reviewing. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get any specifics directly from them. So we're just getting suggestions from Launch Control. So I really hope that the review works and we don't have to keep going back and trying to guess what needs to be fixed. I've asked them to be as specific as possible with us, and if there's anybody on the Launch Control team that knows this process, to have them put eyes on our website and tell us what we need to adjust. So that's been a huge blow, to not have any new leads coming in. So thankfully, we've done the 2 things. One that I mentioned previously with our taking our in limbo leads in our CRM and resuscitating them has gotten us a bunch of leads. And then with our Launch Control consult, we had the consultant said that the leads that we had in a status called not interested, as we went through that with the consultant, he said a lot of these are miscategorized. And what we found is that in the early days of Launch Control, whoever was managing the account was marking no as not interested. Or when people were saying not interested, they were putting it in not interested. And what those need to do is be in follow-up sequences. So fortunately, we had that to work on, and there were a few thousand people in that category. So our Launch Control manager has been going through that status and relabeling people correctly and sending people texts. So the goal in this whole thing is that in a week when we had a huge blow to our business and we're able to send 0 texts and get any new leads, we essentially were getting the same lead flow this week because of the not interested status resuscitation and the leads that were in limbo in our CRM. We were getting like 20 or 30 new people talking to us every day. So like 100 to 150 new leads, and even though they're technically not new, they're ones we already had, we're getting the same flow of leads and conversations and properties to look at and analyze and make offers on. So huge victory in that. Yeah. And that's where I was talking last time about lead management and how important it is for us to get better at managing our leads and keeping everybody engaged. Because, as we know, most deals don't happen until the 4th or 5th or 6th follow-up. So anyway, I think that's my business stuff in a nutshell. Challenges. Those are the main challenges. We had a canceled deal again with a seller that ghosted us, but I talked about that a little bit last week. If we finally canceled that this week, it's just a bummer when you have a buyer all lined up and they're ready to go, and then the seller just won't call you back. And in this case, we just filed the memorandum and then, moving on and gave the buyer their EMD back because they were anxious about the deal closing in a timely way and they didn't want to wait for the seller to come around and all that stuff. So, but there's not much you can do about that. I don't really expect any, any feedback on that. It's just part of the biggest thing about that is building rapport with sellers and getting people on the phone to make sure you get a gauge for what their motivation is and what their level of cooperation is. I think that's a big thing is, you can get somebody who says yes, but they don't cooperate. We need to work with people who are cooperating, and communicating. So, and I could touch on the house deal that we closed this week just on the basis of that, because that one was like, if we're talking about just doing a deal profile, I could run through this one, just briefly. So we found this contact on Launch Control. We're marketing for land, but then we had a seller for whatever reason who had a house that he wanted to sell. So we talked to him, we negotiated a price, we got him under contract. He was a great guy, really easy to work with. And we, I don't need to go into too much of the detail of selling, but we got it under contract and we sold it within a week or so to a buyer who was a very aggressive real estate broker, like driver type personality. And then they came in and told us that they got an inspection of the septic system and they were going to need a $15,000 price reduction. So we called bullshit on that and we got our own septic inspection and they said everything's fine. And then we gave that buyer an opportunity to, buy it at the original price, and they didn't respond to us, and we sold it within a few more days to a buyer for $3,000 more than the first buyer. So that was a victory. And then the buyer was great. They actually got hard money to close this, and the lender was great. The buyer just was easy, went in, looked at it a couple times, put their EMD down, got the hard money set up. We closed it within like a week or two of that. And the seller, every time I called him and asked him for help or information or anything we needed, he was right there, just cooperative and helpful. And and then the attorney was right on top of it. As you know, the closing attorney that you and I both use, Jasper, is out of town next week on vacation. But he gave us a head fake, and we thought he was out of town next week. And we thought he was out of town a different week, and he told us, "Oh no, I'm out of town this week." So we originally had this house scheduled to close this coming week, but to their credit, our closing attorney pushed it to Friday and closed it this week. So that was great. So that was a good deal all around, and just came from texting people and starting conversations, and then getting them on the phone, and then locking it down. So that's just, I don't want to go into too much detail but if anyone ever wants to talk to me about deals, or, we could probably do some other videos on deal breakdowns and like get a whiteboard out and talk about how the numbers work and all that. But that's in a nutshell a profile.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the goal there is that you didn't just take the other buyer's word for it and didn't get pressured much been to accepting a reduction or going to the seller and trying to get a reduction. You did your own due diligence outside of that, and then came up with a better deal out of it. So
Yeah, and it was $420 to get the septic inspections, not nothing, and it was a little bit of a risk, but also it's like you said, it's if you know that you bought the property at the right price and you've got interest in it, then I don't want to be succumbing to people who are like using pressure tactics to try and get me to drop my price or whatever. Like there's a lot of pressure around the timeline, and there was pressure about the septic and when you're getting back to us and when you're getting your next inspection. I was like, I don't want to deal with people who do business this way. I don't want to have people like coming after me and pressuring me, and like, and then it's kind of a red flag if they are putting pressure on the timeline. And are we going to get this $15K price reduction? That means they're probably trying to put one over on you, right? Like, oh yeah, my God. And I was like, can you tell me why it's going to be $15,000? Oh, well, there's like roots growing in the drain field from the septic, and there's going to have to be trees cleared and stuff like that. And I was like, it costs $6,000 to put an entirely new system in, and you're telling me you need $15,000 to clean this one up? I'm not buying it, So anyway, like you said, I'm glad we called bullshit on that and just moved on.
Yeah, definitely. Props to you for that. And you spent $420, but you technically made it $3,000 from spending that money.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're net positive, like $2,600. So
yeah, worth it.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Alrighty.
That's it for me. We can switch over and do your.
Was there any other feedback that I missed?
No, I don't think I have any major areas for feedback this time around. The launch control thing, we've talked about this, lead management and stuff like that. And I feel like we're on the right track with that. We know what to do. We just need to keep getting more organized and doing it. So you gave me feedback about that last week, just making sure everybody's in a follow-up sequence. And we're acting on that, and we're improving our follow-up sequences and adding them in Podio and launch control. So we have strong sequences for everything that we're doing, and we're staying in communication with our sellers.
Yeah, that's huge. That's gonna crush it for you.
Yeah.
I remember the first time when I did mine. It was very similar. It was hundreds and hundreds of leads that were just sitting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be a big plus for you, definitely.
We're spending the money to generate the leads. We don't want to waste them.
Yeah, I know. All right, well, we can switch over then. I'll start with KPIs. So one sold this week, 2 closed, 1 contract, 42 offers, and 180 leads. But those last 2 are slightly off. My Podio went down for, I think it was only 1 full day it was down. But so I think I had slightly more than 42 and slightly more than 180. But the rest of those are accurate. So victories, 2 closings was a victory. I was trying to squeak those in July, but didn't quite make it. Both ended up closing on August 1st, but that's okay. Start the month off strong.
Yeah.
And a bigger victory from those closings is that I went 2 for 2 on 5-star reviews. So that was awesome.
Sweet.
That rarely happens. But in this case, both of them left us a review like they said they would, and short and sweet, but 5-star review is a 5-star review. So we'll take it. Very, very grateful for that. And then another victory that I wrote down was there were no weather issues this week for my team, which is awesome.
Yeah.
After the previous week, there was a lot of issues in the Philippines with weather and stuff. So I'm grateful that the weather has passed and everyone's doing better now. So that was awesome to have the team at full strength. And then I had that one deal that I sold was on Facebook. It was a land deal. And I told you that I'm not doing land deals anymore, but this was an old contract. And so I had been marketing it on my own. And then for some reason, I never posted on Facebook. I was like, I don't know why, but I posted on Facebook and I sold it in like 2 days on Facebook. But the buyer was one that was like very weary of me. And, it makes it worse now when a buyer's like, where can I meet you for the deposit? I'm like, well, I don't live there. And that makes it worse with a new weary buyer, And so the victory was that Gold Law helped me out, and he just went to their office. He signed the contract with their office because he didn't even want to do DocuSign with me. It was just like he was weary of the whole process and stuff. But after he met with them and everything, he was, super easy. He dropped off the check with them, signed the contract, and then we talked afterwards. And he's on the right track now. So
Nice.
I'm grateful for them that they were willing to help me out with that, and basically lend themselves, lend me their office for credibility and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
That's not the one that you sent.
So,
it's not the one you sent us, right?
No, I'm gonna cancel that one. But this is another one. So it was kind of a victory and a challenge. I told you about this deal over a month ago when we contracted this one, and I was excited about it. I thought it was going to be like a big profit deal, just totally no interest at all on my end. And I posted on Facebook at a severely reduced price, and I did sell it. Made me think maybe I could have sold it a little bit higher, but I just wanted to get it off my plate at that point because I've been marketing it for a month. But yeah, it was that 60-acre tract that I told you about that I was excited about. It was 60 acres. I thought somebody might pay a bunch of money for it, but we ended up hopefully making 12.5 on it, so it's still a good profit.
Yeah, that's good.
But I was hoping it would be like a big deal, but that wasn't the case.
Are you just offering below tax value when you're doing big tracts like that?
Yeah, for this one, it was actually right above tax value, but I actually comped it with other big acreage in the area. And I saw that big acreage, like literally within the same, because this is 60 acres. So I saw a few that were 50. I saw a couple that were like 75. So I was using those in my comps. And I did the average of those. And the average of those was selling for, I think it was like $4,800 an acre. And so I had mine at 3. And so I was thinking like, man, this is going to be a big deal. Because if I sold it at $4,800 an acre, that's 1,800 times 60. So that's, I don't know, it's over 100,000, I think. So that's what I was, hoping for. did not pan out that way. And I think a big reason is because it doesn't have direct road access. It has an easement, but it doesn't have direct road access. So I think that's a big reason. But I discounted it on the front end for that. I didn't try to sell it at that 4,800. I just tried to sell it for 4,000 an acre, but it just wasn't happening. So I ended up selling it just for whatever that is, like 3,000 an acre plus 500, I guess, per acre, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, without road frontage, it limits what you can do with it, and I think it limits the amount of dwellings you can put on it and the development and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just grateful to have it sold. It's never final until we close, but hopefully we'll be able to close it. This guy seems very serious. He drove from Newton to Raleigh to give them the $5,000 deposit and sign the contract and everything. So he definitely seems very motivated as a buyer. So I'm hoping things will work out there. But the challenge is that very shortly after that, the victory is that I sold it on Facebook before this happened, but very shortly after they shut me down again. So it was my second time being shut down.
Facebook shut you down?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why, because I posted plenty of land deals and never had an issue, but I don't know. I guess I did something wrong, or maybe someone reported me or something. So I'm in their process. We'll see if they'll reinstate my marketplace account. I don't know if they will, but
you could ask my team, because we've looked at that stuff, and I think Giselle knows pretty well what flags you and what doesn't. So you could ask her, probably message her on Podio.
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll see if they can reinstate me. But I think the lesson there is that I just need to stay true to my word, stop doing land deals. I don't ever post my houses on there, so as long as I stop doing land, then I won't have a need for Facebook Marketplace. But so yeah, that was a challenge and a victory, to sell on Facebook and then get shut down. But other victory was the CG Zoom call this week. The marketing call was very insightful. Unfortunately, I was a little bit late to that, so I missed the beginning, so I have to rewatch it. But I'm going to share this spreadsheet with you because it's awesome. It was similar to that spreadsheet I shared with you a while ago, but it was just a really detailed spreadsheet breaking down on your goals, on leads, and they do leads, and then they do net leads, which is because some leads come in and they're wrong number, wrong, it's just not a good property for you, or stuff like that. So they do leads that come in, and they do net leads, and they do opportunities, which are what they classify leads that are actually interested, and then from opportunities to contracts, and then from contracts to sold, how many of the contracts get sold. So, similar to what we've been doing, but it's all in this easy to look at spreadsheet. So it's really cool.
Nice.
I just need to watch it one more time to kind of learn how to use everything. But that was really good. And another reminder that on launch control, his team is calling these people before pushing them to the CRM. He shared a stat that was interesting, and I don't think mine is this high, but he shared a stat that 70% of their launch control leads that come into their system, they can't ever get on the phone. And so
Wow.
to remedy that, they just added an additional step, and they just put a cold caller in that step. And so I might just do that. But basically, anytime they get someone relatively interested in launch control, they immediately push it to the cold caller. Cold caller calls them, tries to just have basic conversation with them as they would if they cold called the person, essentially. Just try to get a few more details about their motivation, maybe the condition of the house, price, timeline to sell. If they can just get a couple of those, they go ahead and push it to the CRM. But if they can't get them on the phone, then they don't push it yet. They don't push it until the cold call actually speaks to them. And he said that cut their thing way down. I think he said now that it's like 20% of their leads they can't get a hold of, but before it was sent me. And so that was another good reminder, because I think I mentioned that to you before, but I didn't take action on it. So I should take action on that this time. And I actually have a couple people now that I've grown my SMS team that used to be cold callers for me. Now they're SMS, so they could just knock that out themselves pretty easily.
Yeah, we've been trying to do that too, is call people and get them on the phone to determine how serious they actually are.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with myself and you and anyone who's listening, that if you are texting, it's a good practice to get them on the phone before you push them to your team, or if you're your only team, then you can just call them. If you're just starting out, you just call them yourself.
And the big reason is, like, I have the cautionary tales to prove it. You know, I had one deal this year with a fake seller who tried to pose as a seller, somehow thinking he was going to get the money, even though he didn't do the math and realized he was going to have to sign documents and everything. But we had a buyer lined up, and we had a fake seller. And then we had one or two other sellers drop out that we never had phone contact with. So it's important that if somebody's not going to talk to you on the phone, how serious are they about selling their property?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you mentioned that. Just a quick side note. My buddy Kevin, who's also in North Carolina, he actually closed on a property like that. Actually closed.
With a fake seller?
Yeah. And he posted in our CG Facebook group, and he was like, "Hey guys, I just closed on a property, and it's not the real seller. Like, what can I do about this?" And people gave a bunch of responses, and surprisingly, there were a lot of comments, but a lot of people have gotten duped as well. And like all these people in the comments are like, "Yeah, that happened to me last year," or "Yeah, that happened to me last week." And I was just like, "What the heck?"
That was my first time, but it's crazy. That's crazy.
Kudos to you for not following through, because apparently, people are getting duped like that. Not consistently, but at least once a year, it sounds like these people are getting duped like that. So interesting. And I had one this week just to keep on the funny side of things, where it was similar, but we nipped it in the bud kind of early. Where the dude, he was talking on the phone and everything, and we thought it was legit, and so we scheduled an appointment for Duncan to actually go out there and bring him the paperwork. And then Duncan calls me, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm here at the house," and just ring the doorbell, and the dude was talking to me through the ring. He's like, "Yeah, my name is like this person's name, but you haven't ever talked to me. This is the third time this has happened." And so apparently someone was pranking this seller and like sending wholesalers or buyers to their house to like meet up with them and seal the deal, and that he's not even the real person. So it's really weird. That's an even weirder one, because he must just be pranking the seller, not so much us. Like, he must have something out for that guy to keep sending people to his house. But I don't know. That was a funny situation.
But people are finding him people are finding the prank guy from cold,
skip tracing, I guess.
Cold calling. Yeah.
I guess his number. Yeah, I guess his number is attached to or something. But he's just posing it as this guy, and then sending people to the guy's house. So, or
it's the same name. That's what happened to us. Is the guy had the same name as what's happened to us a couple times this year already. But the one guy had the same name, or it was one of the numbers, like you said, with a skip trace, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm so and so," and then he just kept going, and then it was closing time, and then the seller called us up and was like, "What the hell are you trying to sell my property for? I didn't say I was going to sell my property." But then we had, the other one was the middle initial with that woman, where she signed a contract for a property, but it was a different property than the one she actually owned, because it was her name, but the middle initial of the one we thought we were dealing with was different. But the other circumstance we've had is when we've had this happen twice now in the last 2 years. Somebody goes to buy a property on seller financing, and they sign the contract, and they make one or two payments or no payments, and then they don't follow through. and they're still listed as the owner, because when we do an owner finance deal, we put it in the buyer's name, but there's a promissory note to us, right, and a deed. So that it's in the owner's name. So then when you're cold calling or you're reaching out to that person. But if they haven't made any payments, they're not the owner technically. So we've had that happen twice too, where they didn't ever pay it off, the note, and they don't really own it, and they're still trying to sell it. So anyway, there are a few different ways it can happen. But yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to hear that in CG there a lot of people have had it go on. So this is definitely a good sidebar for everybody to know, that make sure you're dealing with the correct seller. Make sure we were even talking about getting a copy of people's driver's license when they sign the sales agreement to sell it, just be like, can you include a photocopy of your driver's license with that? And we may start doing that.
Yeah, but I thought that was funny. Just a funny side note. I didn't know that it was going to be so, I guess, common that people have dealt with that. But everyone was just saying, I guess you can sue the title company because they missed it or something. But I don't know. That's interesting. But hopefully we'll never have to experience that. But yeah, I think that's it for my victories. I might add something else, but yeah, I think that was it. 5-star reviews and the marketing call and gold law. So yeah. Let's see. In terms of challenges, or actually no, one more victory. One more victory for July. July ended this past week, and we surpassed the contract goal as a team, which is awesome because it's been since March, I think. Yeah, so April, May, June, we missed our contract goal, and then in July surpassed it by 5. So
nice.
That was awesome, and felt good to be able to give the team the bonuses, and they were super excited, obviously. And admittedly, I dropped down our goal slightly for July to 10 contracts because I wanted to give them a stronger chance to hit it, but we absolutely crushed it. So we could have hit the normal goal of 12 anyways, but. But I think that's going to give us momentum going into August, first full week of August next week. So I'm excited. I think we'll be able to reach it 2 months in a row.
Nice.
So that was awesome. I always enjoy giving them bonuses.
Yeah.
And so that was sweet. In terms of challenges, I don't know. I feel like I had something, but I mean, I've had a challenge working on this one land deal, considering if I should just cancel it. Because it's been in escrow, and I contract this, and I was just like, I'll contract this, I'll sell this, I'll close it. It'll be a super easy deal. And that was the case up until, they ran title on it. There's 2 liens that we need to get released, and the banks are just so slow with that stuff. So,
yeah.
I contacted both the banks, Wells Fargo, and then this other bank. I don't remember the name. I contacted them and sent them all the information they need. They're like, okay, that'll be 10 to 12 business days. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's just and then after the 10 to 12 business days, that's just them processing the initial request. So if they need any more information from me or Gold Law, then it's another 10 to 12 business days. So it's just like, and the seller just reaching out to me, and I told her, but she's impatient. And it's just like, should I just cancel this deal? Because I don't know, it's not a big profit deal or anything. I'm just thinking I should just cancel it. But at the same time, the buyer would like to buy it. And she would like to sell.
Yeah, and it's on the seller if there's liens on there. They were paid but not released. Is that the problem?
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, I've ran into that multiple times lately.
No, I've run into it too. People just don't release the lien. And then sometimes you can't even find the lien holder, like because it's a private individual or a bank, small bank that's closed down or whatever.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the second lien, that's the problem. With the first lien, it's clearly Wells Fargo. They confirmed it. I spoke to them. They're working on it just very slowly. But with the second one, I contacted this bank, and they didn't confirm. Essentially, I had to send them the request to do this. But the bank that did this lien, it was way back in '94. They're done. I can't find them anywhere. They're dissolved. And then after doing a bunch of research, talking to a seller, we both agreed on the same conclusion that they got bought by this other bank. So that's why I reached out to them. But I can't really verify that. And then the attorney who filed the lien, because that's what I did in the past, I reached out to the attorney. They're closed.
Yeah, I've had that too.
The trustee trustee is a business that's completely dissolved. So it's just like everything.
Yeah.
So it's just, and it's weird. It's weird. Like, I wish there was a statute or something, because 94, it's been almost 20 years. I wish there was something where these could just fall off after 10 years or something. But,
they should, especially if everybody's gone. Yeah. I've had that same thing where this attorney's retired and then they gave it to the other attorney and that guy retired too. And then the other person, it's like, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we need to start charging that fee on every deal. You got a closing fee, transaction fee, or whatever.
Yeah, if we have to do extra work, we got to charge for it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's really just complaining. I guess I'll just stick it out for a few more weeks and hopefully they'll get back to me. But you know that all too well.
But yeah, you could also ask the closing attorney, like, hey, this bank is defunct and the loan's from 94. Is there any way we can just, circumvent this? Because obviously nobody's ever going to come try and collect this anyway. There's nobody around to collect it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I will ask him about that. I guess I can't until the following week. But one thing that I did do with Vacant Law, who I used to work with, is I did do that. And they suggested that, which is awesome. So they sent a letter basically to the lien holder's address. And obviously they're not going to respond because they're dissolved. And what the attorney there told me, Marcus, is that you have to give them 45 calendar days to respond to you. If not, then you can just file a lien or a lien release in their place because they're dissolved. So, but I think some things that I used to do with them, Jason doesn't do. So we'll have to verify with them. But
yeah, it seems like there's got to be something like that for these people you can't track down, because I've had these situations too. You just can't find the lien holder, And if the seller's saying it's paid off, I mean, they're, some people will not be telling the truth, but probably they're telling the truth. They probably did pay it off and the bank just didn't, release it.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this case, the loan is for like $5,000 anyway. So
yeah.
It's not like it's a couple $100,000 that
and
be on the hook for.
It's also the type of thing where you can explain it to the buyer and say, here's what we're up against. We got this lien from 1994 for $5,000 with a dissolved bank. It's probably never going to happen, but you might have to close without title insurance or with a title assurance with an asterisk. Can you do that?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
It's another way to go, because there's probably some other title policy that they can get, but it has the disclaimer for that one lien, and they'll be fine with it. I mean, you could even say, hey, if this ever comes back, I'll split it with you, or it's never going to come back. But if it ever does, I'll help you with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I don't have any challenges that really come to mind besides some technical difficulties this week, but those have been fixed, so grateful for that. But yeah, otherwise things are going well.
Moving along, we're both starting off strong with closings in August, so that's good.
Oh yeah, coming down the home stretch this year, so got to ramp things up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's it for both of our business check-ins. So do you want to close off with appreciations, then I can cut it?
Sure.
All right.
Or any quotes if you have any. I didn't save any quotes from this week, but yeah, appreciations. I appreciate being in Chicago. It's really fun. I haven't spent time I don't know if I've ever really lived in a big city. I lived in Los Angeles. Forget about that. I haven't lived in a big city in a long time, so it's nice to live in a big city for a while. Been here since July 1st, and I'll be here through August. So I appreciate the big city stuff. I appreciate being by the lake. It's wonderful to be really close to the lake and be able to go over there and swim and hang out by the lake anytime. It's really nice to have all the architecture and all the sort of just the fun people watching and all the activity and the different businesses and restaurants of every ethnicity and the diversity of people. I really enjoy all that stuff about being in a big city. So definitely, Ann and I are considering getting some kind of an apartment here in the future, even after we vacate this one and go to North Carolina for a while. But then, I appreciate being able to swim. I appreciate pickleball.